Hello, I'm Julia Bushkova, and today I will answer some questions that were posted under some of my videos. One of these questions was regarding spiccato and sautille, and I believe the question was whether I could show how to play one and the other. So there is a controversy in a way, but maybe not controversy. There are different opinions of what people call spiccato and sautille. Not much difference, but nevertheless. So I would like to make sure that I will give you the terminology that I use and what I use it for. First of all, spiccato, it's a bowing in Italian language. There's a specific bowing called in Italian. Sautille is a bowing that is actually called in French language, and then there is Italian version of it, or Italian word saltando or saltato, that is the same as sautille. But somehow we use spiccato and sautille, two different languages here. So spiccato is a slower bowing, first of all. It is the bowing that, the stroke that starts on string and ends off string, basically. So it's usually played in the part of the bow that is closer to the hand, because it's very difficult to do here. And so we do it here. And because it's also a slower tempo, usually in louder dynamics, then it makes sense to do it here. So you start on the string, you put the bow very close to the string, but not exactly on at first. Actually, you could place it on the string and then draw and then come off the string. At first, it's acceptable. The same thing on a bow. So you place the bow, and then you lift the bow off very closely to the string. That's the trick. Not to go away like this, not to go far. So the goal is to basically stay so much close to the string that it looks very parallel. And the same thing on up bow. So on up bow, of course, you kind of bite slightly with your index finger, so to produce the same crisp beginning of the sound, the tone, as it was on down. The trick, of course, is then to go in a faster tempo. Spiccato is the bowing for slower to middle tempo. It never goes into fast tempo. It becomes actually sautille. The way we do it is differently as well. So to recap, we start slowly, and then we lift the bow at the end of each stroke. As I said, at the beginning, it's okay to put the bow on the string and then draw the sound. Later on, you don't want to do this. You want to be very, very close to the string, like 1 millimeter off, or one hair even touching the string, but only one hair. So you hold the weight of the bow, and then you start with this little attack, which you allow the weight of the bow here. And then on the up, you actually make the weight with your index finger. Okay, so then this bowing accelerates, and it becomes, still gives you a nice crisp beginning. As this bowing gets faster, or as the tempo gets faster rather, this bowing slowly becomes half controlled, because we start using the bouncing property of the bow. So for instance, if I'm playing, I will be already not starting really on the string, but I would be very, very close, and therefore the sound will not be dirty or some unfiltered sound like this. You don't want to have that sound, okay? It's not very good quality. So what I am doing here, I am landing on the string. You can say throwing a bow, but from very, very small distance. But then also the bow slightly helps me by having a little bit of the bouncing quality in the stick already in this part. So the faster we go with the off strings, the more we go in the middle, where the bow wants to bounce, when it's programmed to bounce. It's built that way, this type of bow that we use these days. So the faster you go, the more we start using the actual bouncing property of the bow. So when we come to Sautille, which is only performed in fast tempo, then Sautille is made, it's based on a détaché movement. Pretty much it's only very short, small movement of the forearm. That's a very important thing. And Sautille, so what I'm doing basically there, I'm using the bouncing property of the bow. I am using only forearm. I don't want, and you should not want to use any of the upper arm. If you start using the upper arm, which people sometimes do, trying to get the bowing, you will end up with a problem. And that is pretty much what will happen. And plus you will lock up. So the bow will be skidding, it would be landing in different places because the improper part of the arm is involved while you are basically in the middle of the bow. It's in the middle or a little bit under the middle. That's where the Sautille lives. How to get to Sautille is a very hard question. So I was trained in Moscow in Russia, right? So several teachers that I observed, not only mine but a couple more, they give this exercise. And the exercise is to go with a very short bow with a lot of pressure, like fortissimo, fast tempo, and you go for, let's say, 8 or 16 notes. Just like that. And then after having this, you just kind of lighten up and the bow starts bouncing. That's how that explanation went. So this is easier said than done. I remember myself in a very young age and some of my students not being able to get to the Sautille correctly, and instead it would become something like this. And you can see probably what is happening with my hand. So I'm thinking, oh, piano, it will be soft and therefore I will have to be very light. No, it's not that. It's mostly relaxing the pressure. The first pressure is into the string with the index finger being in the string and the correct movement of the forearm, and then letting that go a little bit and having the bounce emerge from the stick. I think this is the hardest part about Sautille, is that we really don't make it. We don't do it. We exploit, and by exploration first, we use the bouncing property of the bow. And bow bounces here. If you just drop it like this, it will bounce. Notice it will bounce with flat hair, much better than with tilted hair. The same movement, but the hair is tilted, doesn't bounce. Bounces a lot. So when you're doing Sautille, also be conscious and aware of how much tilt or angle of the hair you're using. Use less. That is a little bit easier. So the second approach to Sautille is to actually first do this, which is allowing the bow to bounce to the string and not moving it at all. And that you do by index finger sending the bow there. And then from that, a little bit of motion. Actually, from that method, you can go from a slower tempo into the faster tempo. For some people, this method approaching Sautille works better than the so-called Russian method of having the fast détaché in forte. However, for some people, it's a combination of both. And I think the combination of those is probably the best result, will bring the best result for most people.